Only in JamaicaPlain can an ex-con become a TEDx speaker. They say the toughest thing that you could ever do is to stand before an audience and give a speech. Well, I think I could top that. Try being a New York Yankee fan that lives in Boston, Massachusetts. I got to thank my wonderful children, in part to my wife's influence, who are all diehard Red Sox fans. My children have guaranteed me safe passage to and from Fenway Park plenty of times when my Yanks have been in town. You may say that without my children's protection, I will probably not be here today to share with you the importance of engaging tweens in our community. I use baseball as a theme. I view the years between 11 to 14 as the sweet spot years for engaging youth. At the age of 11, I had the aspirations of becoming a doctor for two particular reasons. One, my grandmother, who was diabetic, I would constantly watch how she will struggle to manage that disease. And then second, my father, who was a heroin addict. I could never quite understand why he was always sick all the time. But I wanted to grow up to become the doctor that will cure them both. But my aspirations never came to be. By the time I was 13, I was dealing drugs. By the time I was 15, I was stabbed twice and shot once. And by the time I turned 17, I was arrested and later convicted to a 10-year mandatory sentence. In 6 short years, I went from a boy who wanted to become a doctor to a teen entering his manhood in a prison full of no-goods. But of course, this is not a talk about my personal transformation. It's about having a conversation with you about the importance of developing transformative relationships with tweens in our community. I grew up loving, watching, and playing baseball. I still play to this day competitively. If you ask any baseball player what their goal is when they step up to the plate, their response will be to make contact with that sweet spot portion of the bat. But every baseball player knows that in order to make contact, timing is key. Seeing the ball coming is important, and coordinating your swing precisely will grant you the desired hit. It's the same method I use when I work with 11 to 14-year-olds. See, I know that in order to make a hit, I need to be in the game. I need to see the potential person that's inside the child that I am working with. And then I have to coordinate my engagement in such a way that would yield the desired outcome. Now, how many of you have ever stepped up to the plate, swung with all your might, and struck out? How many of you have stepped up to the plate, saw the ball coming, didn't swing at all, and still striked out? That's good, a good portion. Both of these scenarios provided you with the opportunity to make contact with that sweet spot. But somehow, in some way, your timing was off. I hope that with this talk, I can improve your engagement timing and hopefully increase your on-base percentage with this age group. In the 20-plus years that I have worked in youth development, I'm still puzzled on how we continue to fail this sweet spot population. We fail them because we don't see them. Most 11 to 14-year-olds are invisible children because we don't see the potential in them. We only come to see them when they shift into that teen population. And even then, when we do see them, we don't see teenagers. We see threats. What I see are children who are unengaged and hungry for engagement. If we don't feed them, they grow up to become disengaged youth. And disengaged youth are not good for any community. So the question now is, why this population? It's simple. The timing in their development is sweet. This age group is full of aspirations. They appreciate adult engagement and acknowledgement. As my YMCA president, James Morton, would say, children are filled with hope. It is up to us adults to make sure that we get them to do something good with it. Now, in order to be a good hitter, you have to study the pitcher. And the pitcher comes with an arsenal of pitches to get the job done. So what are the arsenal of issues that our tweens are facing that make them feel like they're striking out? Well, for one, they're making that shift from elementary to middle school. They're becoming more conscious about who they are as individuals. They have this deep desire to be accepted by their peers, and in trying to be accepted, they're experimenting with a whole lot of bad and maybe some good. They face drama in the form of bullying, and in this day and age, cyberbullying. And when you factor in puberty, oh, trust me, I got 2 tweens. Life can get a little bit crazy. But what's most alarming is that this age group is also questioning and doubting their childhood aspirations. And they are being scouted by drug dealers and gangbangers who are currently recruiting them much faster than we can. Just this past summer, we had a 16-year-old recruit a 14-year-old to murder another 16-year-old. I think we need to do a change-up in the lineup. We need to make sure that our children are surrounded by more caring and consistent adults. So what can we do? How can we begin to score some runs and make some real vital hits? What is it that we can do for this population? For that, we need to take a trip around the bases. And it begins at home plate. And home plate represents you. It's about you taking inventory of who you are and casting aside any fears you have before you step up to the plate. It's about you becoming the person that was there for you or the person that was not. It's about opening yourself up and being humble and having a willingness to learn from a young person so that they can be open to learn from you. I'm going to challenge you to sort of think about that. Now, when we stroll over to first base is about consistency and contact. You have to be consistent in the life of a child in order to win the game. Because if there is no consistency, then there is no contact. If there is no contact, then there's no hit. And if there's no hit, there's no win. Consistency is key. Now, I want you to steal second base. Second base is totally different. Second base is about you learning what's in your community. It's about asking the questions about what is happening at the Y, or at the Boys and Girls Club, or at High Square Task Force. It's about seeking that information. Because if you're being consistent and making contact with your young people, who do you think needs that information the most? It's those children. And then lastly, you want to scoot over to third. And third base is all about advocacy. It's about processing what you learned at second and then trying to figure out not only what exists, but what needs to exist. And sometimes the only way that we can bring services to our community is when we become advocates for these children. Because our children are so shut down in community processes that sometimes we don't even hear their voice when they're crying out for help. Now, if you're on third and you're stepping off of third, where we're heading back to? Where? We're heading back to home. And when we get back to home, Home is about the process. It's about starting the process all over again. It's about improving ourselves. It's about becoming a better player. Because if we become better player, then our tweens become champions. When you look at the image of the infield of a baseball park, what do you see? What is this? A diamond, right? A baseball diamond. Each of you are diamonds. Each of you have reached a level of success. You are shining examples to our tweens that success is possible. But if you don't share your shine, this becomes a block. And this block represents the same thing I saw when I was 11 years old, that I see children facing today. Our children are growing up thinking that their world is 4 city blocks. And when they think their world is 4 city blocks, then let's not be surprised when they end up in cell blocks or buried in cement blocks. Now, each of you are potential franchise players. I'm willing to sign you all to a lucrative engagement deal, one that will transform your lives, but most importantly, touch your souls. But if you don't, what would happen to our children? So I'm asking each and every one of you to join the team, to step up to the plate, to get up into the game, but most importantly, forget that I'm a Yankees fan. All right? And to become a blockbuster hitter with me. Because if you don't, the aspirations that our children have will never become expectations. So let's play ball. Thank you.